Well, good morning, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday morning, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. By the way, happy Thanksgiving. Everybody have a great day today. Please be careful outside. I don't know about you, but it's raining here in Alabama. So if you're out and about and you're in the rain, please be careful. So today we're going to talk about the Samsung dryer. This is a basic course. This is not a super in-depth course. This is more of a basic course. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I can tell my hair's a mess. I apologize for that. It's been raining here, and I had to run outside for a minute. But anyway, so the first thing we're going to talk about, this is our agenda for the day. Is meter basics. Two is common issues. Three is checking the motor. And then we're going to talk about disassembly of the dryer. Basically, if you know how to check a motor, it's all the same. Okay. I mean, there's a few, there may be a little tiny difference here and there, but the basics are all the same. Same thing with a meter. Okay. As a technician, you have got to be able to read a meter. If you can't read a meter, then you need to go find a course. There are plenty of them online that you can look at. You can actually buy a book off of Amazon that will actually tell you exactly what to do and how to read your meter and all the correct settings. It goes into way more in depth than we're going to go, but it's a good thing to have. I mean, I've got a couple of books. I was looking for them. I've got a couple of books that's on about reading schematics. Okay, I've got those, and then I've got these electrical engineer workout knowledge. So always try to better yourself. I could sit here. I'm 64 and a half. I could sit here and let my mind just obliterate. But I like to challenge myself every day. I try to find something new that I can look at. I may go out and it may be something as simple. It may be something as simple as going out to YouTube and pulling up videos on some type of an appliance. I get all kinds of ideas from YouTube. As a matter of fact, I take some of the pictures that are included in this program. I have taken those off of YouTube. That is a great place that you can build your knowledge base. We're not all perfect, and everything is we can all learn. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. So anyway, let's get started. Meter basics 101. Okay. Meters are designed to measure three properties found in a working circuit. They are resistance, it's voltage, and they also current flow. Okay. This is why a meter may be called a multimeter. They can perform multiple function and measure different kinds of voltage and current, both AC and DC. Okay. What is resistance? Okay. Resistance is the opposition to current flow. A component is measured in a unit called ohms. Okay. Like I said, this is basic meter. So ohms is what we use on your meter. If you look at your meter itself, you can actually see that there's an upside down horseshoe on about probably somewhere between 4 and 6 places. And it's usually marked off. And like I said, the symbol for ohms is the upside down horseshoe. Okay. All electrical components have a resistance value. Okay, you have to have a resistance value. All right. So some of the examples of things that we would measure. Okay. Inductors, a circuit board, your power supply, a resistor, and a diode. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. If I'm going to try to check a power supply, I have got to do this while it is unplugged. If I'm doing anything with the ohms function, I have got to unplug the unit. If I have something that has a capacitor in it, okay, I need to discharge that capacitor. If you look out there today, most everything has a capacitor. Okay, it may be that it's a bleed resistant capacitor and you can't get to it because it's on the board. But you still need to, if you can. Perfect example is a microwave. I need to discharge that capacitor because if I don't, I'm going to take about a whole lot. It's very low amps, but the voltage is up there. It'll curl your hair, as the old saying goes. Okay. The other thing to remember is that on a diode, okay, a diode you can only measure one way. Okay. If I put the positive and negative on a diode, I won't be able to read it but one way. The current doesn't flow through one side. Okay. Voltage. It's the electrical potential or potential difference between 2 points measured in a unit called volts. Symbol for voltage is just the capital V, okay? This potential can either be DC, which is direct current, or AC, which is alternating current, okay? Examples of a DC voltage, the easiest thing to tell you is your car battery, okay? Your car battery runs on DC. Most of your voltages today run on either AC. They only run on AC or DC. If I have an alternating current and I'm checking my DC motor, if I put it on AC, I won't read anything. I will tell you this: if I have my meter set for DC and if I don't discharge the capacitor, or I have the unit plugged in and I have it set to DC and I'm checking AC, it will blow my meter. Okay. I will tell you that from experience. Okay. I have a meter that I thought I had set to DC. It's one of those new meters. As my grandfather used to say, it's one of them newfangled things. Okay. One of the new meters has it automatically tries to check whatever it is that I'm trying to check. I was checking a DC battery that happened to be a 32 volt DC battery. I had it set for DC. It flipped it to AC and blew my meter. So I've got to change the fuse in my meter. Thank goodness it had a fuse and it kept it from blowing the whole meter up because it was an expensive meter. Okay. Current is the flow of electrons through a conductor. Okay. Usually it's a piece of wire or a certain rate based on voltage source provided by the resistance that flows through the current of the circuit. Okay. Current is measured in amperes or amps. The symbol for it is a capital A. All right. So I will tell you that some of the more expensive meters, I can measure everything with my amp probe. My meter that I have, my regular meter that I use all the time, will not measure amps. It's only AC DC voltage. That's all, and resistance that it will measure. Okay, that's all you really. The only time I need amperage a whole lot of times is if I have a unit that has what am I looking at? It's an oven and it's a gas oven or a gas dryer. Okay. Current is measured in amperes or amps. The symbol is A, just the volt, just like voltage. Current can be measured either AC or DC, okay, based on the voltage source of the circuit. An example, a light bulb in the room of your home, okay? When you turn the light switch on, you have now completed the circuit. Whenever that circuit is completed, the power runs from the light, from the switch to the light itself, and then back out through the other side. Okay, so I now have completed my circuit. That is an example of a 120 volt circuit. Okay, so here's an example. You're going to have to pardon me. I've got a little bit of scratch in my throat. So the meter's role can be identified. It's critical to remove operating power source from the unit being diagnosed. If I'm going to measure anything I need to disconnect the power source. The only time I'm going to leave the power source on is if I'm checking 120 or 240 volts, and I need to check that circuit to make sure that I have a basic 240 or 120 volts. Okay, I can either check my meter using if I've got a 240 volt circuit. Most of the time I can go between one of the hot legs and the neutral. That'll give me 120 volts. And then I can go to L2 and to the neutral, and that'll give me 120 volts. Then if I go between the two, I get 240 volts. If I go between L1 and L2, you're going to have to pardon me. Somebody's calling me. Looks like somebody from in a compass. All right. So the most common method is to unplug the unit from the wall outlet or turn the power off at the circuit breaker. Okay. That's that. If I'm checking anything, I'm going to have to unplug the unit. Okay. Measuring resistance. Here's a perfect example. As you can see here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5, 2, 4. It looks like there's 5 settings for this meter. Then you have the tone setting that's on the far right. Okay. Once the power is removed, you can turn the meter to the ohms function and the meter's internal battery to check. Now, here's where I was talking about checking 240 volt circuit. If you look at this unit right here, this has 4 wires. Okay, so the red wire is the black wire is L1. Then I have a neutral. Then I have an L2 that's the red wire. Okay, then the green wire is now the earth ground. Okay, the home that I own in Daytona Beach was built in 1948. It does not have an earth ground. Okay, so all of the plugs that I have in my home, where I have replaced one of the plugs because it went bad, I don't have an earth ground. So we're gonna get into earth ground a little in just the next one, in the next slide or two, and that's something that you need to be aware of because it actually is grounded to the earth. Okay, what is an earth ground? By definition, an earth ground is exactly what it sounds like. It's a ground physically and electrically connected to the earth. Okay, via a conductive material such as copper, aluminum, or aluminum alloy. Okay, I have a copper earth ground. It is a 6-foot solid piece of copper that you drive into the ground. Okay, I just had to put up a power pole for my father, and that power pole had one of the aluminum alloy rods that I had to drive 6 feet into the ground. Okay. As mentioned previously, the ground terminal, earth ground, is physically tied to the chassis, which in turn is connected to the ground wire within the power cord. As it's finally connected to the earth via the three or four prong plug. Okay. The 3-pronged plug would be a 120 volt plug. The 4-prong plug is your 240 volt plug. Okay. What exactly does an earth ground look like whenever it's outside? Okay. This right here is an earth ground. If you look at where the arrow is pointing, you notice that there is a number 4 copper wire. That number 4 copper wire goes this one right here. It goes from the electrical box down the pole into that wire that I've driven into the ground. There's a connector that is a copper connector. I have to put that copper connector on. Then I put that earth ground wire into that copper connector. I tighten it as tight as I can get it, and that completes the circuit for the earth ground. Okay. So this right here, as I said, this is your earth ground for a 120 volt circuit. Okay. The earth ground for the 240 volt circuit was the one that we showed about 4 slides before. Okay. Does anybody have any questions right now? I'm gonna stop periodically to go over and make sure that there's no questions. Now the music is playing from Jeopardy. Do, 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 do. If anybody has any questions, type them into the bottom right side. It says all. Type. You can post it. It says post a comment. So if anybody has any questions, post your comment there. Okay. Da, 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 da. All right. I don't guess I see anybody with a question. We're going to continue. Okay. Like I've said a couple of times, unplug the unit before continuing. Like I said, if I'm not careful, I can blow my meter up. Sometimes, even though I have a battery, if I am checking ohms and I go across a 240 volt circuit, chances are I've just blown my meter up. And that's the reason that I normally use just a cheap meter, just in case because I get in a hurry. I'm not going to tell anybody any stories. I have my moments that I look back and I go, why did you do something like that? That you knew better than that. But we all do it. So always unplug your unit. Okay. So 5 things to check if my dryer won't start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check the power. Okay. I'm going to check power to the plug. And if I have no power to the plug, I am going to go to the fuse box. I'm going to see which breaker is flipped. If you look at your breaker box, you can see that it'll be halfway tripped. I'll have to push it down to stop, and then I can push it back to reset. Okay. Then if something happens and that doesn't take care of it, I'm going to check the power cord. Okay. So I'm going to check my power cord. I'm going to make sure that I have I can check between, we're talking about a dryer. So I can check between L1 and the plug, L2 and the plug, the neutral and the plug, and then the earth ground and the plug. Okay. If all of those check, I can go and go to the power cord. I'm sorry, to the belt. Okay. We're gonna discuss on how to disassemble in a unit. To check the belt, On this dryer, I have to remove the top. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to check everything that I can before I do that, because now I've got to remove a bunch of bolts or a bunch of screws out of the unit. Okay. So if my belt checks okay, the next thing I'm going to go to I'm going to go to my push to start switch. Okay. In this unit, the push to start switch is actually built into the timer. So it's all one unit. If I have to replace the push to start switch, I end up having to replace the timer. Okay. The other thing that I can check is the door switch. Okay. I can check. How can I check the door switch? I can do one of two things. I can either go to the timer and find my two wires that the door switch is wired into the timer. I can mash that and check the continuity going through it. And if I have continuity, I release it, push it in, release it, push it in a couple of times. That way, I'm sure that the time that it actually works. If that works, then I know that I've got and it still won't start. I've got something wrong with the push to start switch or the timer itself. Okay, so this is a very common problem for a unit that literally that Samsung has. I used to be a regional service manager for Samsung. That was back like in 2000. So that was a long time ago. I do have my Samsung shirt still, and one that I have. So I've been through a lot of these issues. Some of our new ones. We're not going to talk about refrigeration now. This is just dryers, so let's keep our things to a Samsung dryer, if you could, please. I had a couple of classes that I put on, and somebody was asking me about a GE and something about a Samsung refrigerator. I'm more than happy to do that, but let's do it offline. So one of the things is my name, my phone number, my email address. Reggie Williams's phone number, email address is all scrolling across the very bottom. One more thing, we're going to discuss Easy Stock. You can download it from either Apple Play or Google Play. We're going to do that at the very end of the program, depending on how much time we have left. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments, please send me a text message on that number and then send me an email. If you call me, I usually have about 15 to 20 spam calls a day. Okay, I may not answer the phone. But if you text me and tell me, hey, I need to talk to you about a problem, or write down the model number that you're having an issue with, the serial number, and the issue that you're having. If you'll send that to me via text or email, I'll get back to you. If I don't have the answer, I will find the answer. I'll send you a little text back or an email back saying, "Hey, listen, let me get with several of the regional managers that I know, and I will get back to you." All right. So this is a common problem. Okay, the unit runs. The only time it'll stop is when I open the door or or flip the breaker off. Okay. If you flip the breaker on and off a couple of times, it's not going to fix it. Okay. What happens is the relay is stuck on this. Okay. The easiest way to get this relay stuck is to actually take a screwdriver. I'm going to show you the relay. And you're going to tap the relay. Again, the unit is unplugged. I'm going to tap the relay. Whenever about 4 or 5 times, usually it'll unstick. Okay. Once I do that, I can plug the unit in and it'll operate normally. Now, I will tell you this, 89 times out of 100, it'll work. But the only problem is it only works for a short time. So I don't know about the company that you work for, but the company that I owned and the companies that I've worked for, we had a 30-day policy that said, hey, if you have the same issue within 30 days, we'll come out at no charge. Okay. If I come out the second time, I don't make any money. I'm losing money hand over fist. Okay. So the units that we have that I have got callbacks on, I have to justify your paycheck. So I can't justify your paycheck if you're constantly going out and having recalls. Okay. So one of the things that I always check whenever I was a service manager was recall percentage and first time completes. If I've got either of those issues, that's the way that you were graded. And the last thing that I would have is the number of calls that you completed in a day. Okay. So if something happens, like I said, replace the relay. But to get the unit back to operate, so because 9 times out of 10, you got a customer that's got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, a whole house full of kids, and she needs her dryer. So what I can do is I can tap on that relay, okay, with my screwdriver. Not it's the back of the screwdriver. It's the part that you hold on to, not the part that has the either the Phillips head or the flat head on it. And for whatever you do, please don't use a scratch awl on it. Okay. Wrapping on the relays usually will get the relay unstuck and the unit will return to normal condition. Like I said, this is a temporary fix. This is just so you can get the customer by. Okay. If I've got the board on my truck, I don't even have to worry about this because I just tell the customer, this is your issue. I'm going to have to go and replace this. Hopefully it's under warranty. 99 times out of 100, it's not, and the customer has to pay. Okay. I'm going to show you the relay in just a minute. When you arrive, the unit will give you a arpeggio tone, but it won't start. Okay. So, you know what? Let's go back. Well, for some reason, it doesn't want to go back. There it went. Okay. So if you look at this wiring schematic, okay, you'll always be able to tell this by where the relay is. You're going to have to look at the board because usually on your board you're going to have your wiring diagram. It will actually show exactly where it is. On different models, it's going to be located in a different place. In this one, if you look at the relay that is in between the blue wire and the yellow wire, that's the relay that you're going to tap in this particular one. You need to go though, and you need to be sure the right one. So I'm going to use my wiring schematic to tell me exactly where it is. Okay. So one of the other problems that we get with the Samsung dryer, whenever I get here, the unit, whenever I power it on, I get an arpeggio tone, but it won't start. So does everybody know what an arpeggio tone is? I was in band for about 9 years, so I know what an arpeggio tone is. An arpeggio tone is ding, 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 and it goes up. It goes progressively at a higher pitch. Starts at a low pitch and then goes to a higher pitch. You'll realize it whenever you walk in and turn it on. Okay, so to get to it, okay, I've got to put a putty knife and lift, and on the left side, lift that corner up. I'm going to put something in there so that it won't fall back down, because there's nothing worse than pushing your putty knife in, it pops. Then you go to the other side and push, and it pops, and the one on the left falls. Okay, so go ahead and make sure that whenever you get it, I either put something under it so it won't fall back down, or I keep my finger under it. Okay. So 5 things to check if the dryer runs but won't heat. Okay. Use a continuity to check between all 5 of the below parts. Okay. So once again, I've got to make sure that this unit is unplugged. We're going back to about the 8th or 9th slide, and it says to unplug the unit. Always unplug the unit. If I don't, I will blow my meter. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to check is I'm going to check my thermal fuse. If my thermal fuse is gone, I need to figure out why my thermal fuse has gone. This only happens usually if I reach somewhere between 190 to 210 degrees. Okay. If my thermal fuse is gone, that usually tells me that I have another issue. Nice thing about this dryer, it will tell me what kind of restriction I have. That's one of the fault codes. Okay, so I'm gonna whenever I get this arpeggio tone, the first thing that I'm gonna do before I do anything else is I'm gonna see if I can't get it to go into diagnostic mode and read my codes that are bad. Okay, so if my thermal fuse is bad, I know that I've got 99 times out of 100 I've got a restriction. The other thing is it could be a problem with the heating element. So I'm going to check both the thermal fuse, the high limit thermostat, and the heating element. If all of those things check good, that's 3 things right there. The next thing I'm going to check is the motor's blower assembly. I'm going to get to that, and I'm going to check the thermistor and the thermal fuse on those. Okay. There are plenty of fuses here. It used to be in an old dryer. As a matter of fact, I still have one in the garage. There was an operating thermostat, a high limit thermostat, and a thermal fuse. That's all. That's the only things that they used to have in a dryer. But now it's changed with all of the new stuff. You've got a moisture sensor that I have to check. Okay, so I can own the heater out. So all I have to do is unplug one of the wires to my heater. I usually turn my meter to a tone. That way I don't have to look at my meter and see what I get. Then I hit both one on one side of the heater and one on the other side, the one that I have removed the terminal on. That tells me if my heater is good. If my heater is no good, I'm going to have to replace my heater. But at the same time, I probably am going to have some other issue along with just the heater. Okay. When working on a heater, always wear gloves. The oil on your hands, I can't tell you any easier than the oil on your hands. Okay. The sweat from your body, that actually, if that comes in contact with the element, it will cause a whole lot quicker failure on the unit. Okay, that tells me right there that my unit has failed. So I go out and I don't use gloves like it's in the picture. Usually in a couple of 3 months, depending on how bad it is, my heater was short out. Okay, so me as a person, okay, if I'm going to replace it, I know that I have had some other issue, so I'm going to replace the whole thing. You can buy it with Encompass, and it comes with all of the fuses and the heating element for this Samsung dryer. This is the way that I recommend replacing it. Okay. Okay. Now that you have determined that the part failure, let's drill down. Let's drill down and look for the reason for the failure. I missed that one. Okay. I'm going to have, these are the things that I'm going to check. Okay. I have a kinked dryer vent. I have moisture in my vent line, and the customer didn't empty the lint filter after every use, which caused a lint buildup. So I'm going to have to instruct my customer that they need to clean the lint filter every single time they use it. May not look like it, but go ahead and clean it. The other thing that I can that may happen is once I remove that lint filter, I need to look at the lint filter. Whenever I was a technician, this has been a problem since the 70s. People would use too many dryer lint sheets. I saw an ad the other day that said, throw a couple of dryer lint sheets in. Do not throw 2 lint sheets into a dryer. What will happen is I can actually go to the faucet. Okay, I can run water into that lint filter, and it will actually hold the water. So now I've got to clean my lint filter so that I can make sure that I'm not having this problem. All right. The next thing is on the moisture in the vent line. I'm going to have to trace down the vent line all the way from the beginning to where it goes out of the dryer. Okay. What happens is I have been on so many calls that they ran a flexible ducting out of the vent, and that flexible ducting actually caused moisture because it as the flexible ducting moves, it actually fills up with water, and now I got no water to get out. So I have got to make sure that the lint filter is good. Okay, so that moisture in the vent line, I'm going to have to find a way to empty that. Usually I had a 5-gallon bucket. I'm going to poke a hole in it and let it drain into the bucket that I have, and then I'm going to have to replace that vent line. Now you have to show the customer, here's your problem. I can't fix it without replacing the vent line. This probably is going to you're probably going to have to come back, because 9 times out of 10, you can't, you don't ride around with ducking in your truck. Okay. So these are the 3 venting issues that we have. Okay. So one of the things about a Samsung dryer, now they're coming with a steamer valve. Okay. If I have this steamer valve, I am going to if I have problems and it's not dispensing steam, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check at the valve to make sure that my valve is good. I own that valve out. If it's not good, I'm going to have to replace it. If I'm going to replace it, that means I have to turn the water off to this steaming valve. Okay. There is also a steaming valve in the washing machine. Okay. So I may have a valve that I have to shut off for the washer and the dryer. Okay. I'm still going to have to make sure that I've got it turned off. There's nothing worse than cracking it open and getting water all on the floor. Now I have different issues. Okay. So all I got to do is own this valve out. Okay. So let's talk about my dryer has a thumping sound. Anybody that's ever worked on a dryer has come across this. Okay. And it's a thumping sound. Thump, 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 thump. And it can be at a slow rate or a fast rate. It depends on how many rollers are bad. Okay. So my dryer has a thumping sound. What's my problem? So I'm going to have to remove the drum. We're going to get to the breakdown of this, okay? But once I get my drum out, I'm going to have to look for anything that would cause the drum not to freeze, not to spin freely, okay? Most of the time, there is a worn spot on the drum, on the roller. Okay, if it's not a worn spot, the whole roller itself has wallowed out. If I have a wallowed out roller, I may have to replace the insert. Okay, if you look at this one right here on the very bottom there, you can see that whole thing is actually wallowed out. It's on the very bottom of it. Okay, it's right next to the where the vent area is. Okay, I may have to replace not only the roller but the shaft that the roller goes on. I have seen these that were so bad that I had to unscrew that and replace it. Okay, those are a pain in the neck, but if you do, you're going to probably have to have a callback. That's not a good thing, but you need to figure out a way to let the customer know that they should have called you a whole lot sooner than right now. Okay, let's talk about something else. If I pull this off and I lay this down, okay, and I'm looking at it, the first thing that I notice is that big pile of lint that's laying there. If I have a very big pile of lint laying right there, I hate to wonder what it looks like inside the box. Okay, I guarantee you I've got major problems. Okay, another thing, long runs of ducking and elbows cause a bad airflow. I am dealing with this right now at my dad's house. I've got to cut down some of the elbows that were used. If you look at this picture right here, this is the world's worst picture, okay? Because what I have done is I have so many sharp angles on the top of the. If you look at the very top, the way that has a P-trap in them, I'm going to have problems right there. I guarantee you that I will have an issue with venting, okay? And I will never get it fixed unless I take that out. Okay. If you look at this, all right, every time that I have one more elbow, okay, and a 90-degree elbow, I'm gonna lose 5-footed duct. Okay. So dryers should only have a 25-foot run of rigid piping and 2 elbows. That's all that's figured in. If I have more than that, I'm going to have to start subtracting stuff. I may end up having to put an assister vent in it. So there's a motor that will fit into the vent line and will help you to pull the moisture out. Okay. Another issue for this unit. Okay. The dryer stops after 2 minutes. Okay. If there aren't enough clothes in the dryer, this unit will stop. It senses that the clothes are dry and it will just stop. So I have the trouble that you will have now is convincing the customer that that's your problem. Usually the easiest thing to do is to take and throw get something in the washing machine, get it wet, throw that back into the dryer, and turn it on, and now the customer goes, oh, okay, because now it runs all the time. Okay. One of the other things that I have to check to make sure that what my problem is, the wrinkle prevent switch is turned off. as it will keep the clothes from wrinkling. So this thing will just, if I don't open the door and and pull the clothes out, just like every 2 minutes, it will start to spin. Okay. So that I've got to make sure that that's not my issue also. Okay. Make sure the Eco Dry is turned off. That's the other part of that. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to come to my favorite thing is a motor. Okay. I will tell you that changing a motor out is in this unit is not a fun task. Okay. The way that the belt is run, this one right here is not a bad one. The one that I had, the belt was not. It was actually in between the motors, so it was the motor and the blower wheel. So I had a huge issue with getting the belt on. So I had to run the motor through and tighten the blower wheel while with the motor so that I could get it to spin. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do whenever I'm checking to make sure that the motor is good, I'm going to inspect the blower wheel. I'm going to make sure that there's no obstruction. Usually what will happen is whenever you push the button, you get it to buzz and then it'll quit. That will trip it. That's because the overload is tripped. Okay. So I'm going to inspect the blower wheel. I'm going to make sure that there's no obstruction. Okay. I'm going to make sure that it's not freewheeling on the motor. If I have something that's freewheeling on the motor, that tells me that if the blower wheel is freewheeling, I'm probably going to have to replace the blower wheel and the motor, because usually it's so bad that whenever you go to try to take the blower wheel off the motor, I can't get it to take off. I can't take the blower wheel off. So I am going to make sure that I have everything to make sure that that is free, so that the motor is free to spin. I will tell you from personal experience, I had a customer that had a different dryer than a Samsung. Okay, but it wouldn't matter. She had a 2-year-old son that somehow got on the dryer, pulled the lint filter out, dropped a little small block in it. It fell down, and whenever it fell down, it actually obstructed the motor, and it was actually going off on the overload on the motor. Okay, that's why I need to check and make sure that that's my problem, and I go to that instead of going to the motor at the very beginning. Okay, so there are two types of plugs. Okay, the one on the left is the one like off of my dryer from the late 70s. You may see some of these today. You may not. If you have a sub, some of the times there will be a Mullinex plug that I have to rewire. I have to rewire the plug, okay, so that I can put the Mullinex plug on it. Okay, but no matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a picture, especially the one on the right. I'm going to take a picture of it just like it is there. That before I unplug anything, because I have got to make sure that I put the right connectors onto the plug in the right order. If I don't, it's not going to run. Okay, the one on the right is the Mullinex plug. As you can tell, I can unplug that and just go to the motor, and it'll work fine. Okay, so the one thing I've got to do next is I'm going to have to pull out the wiring schematic, the wiring diagram, whatever you want to call it. I have to pull out this wiring diagram. Okay, I'm going to determine where the motors start and run windings are located. Okay, usually I can look at the plug itself, and I'll be able to tell which is the start, which is the run windings. There's an extra wire that's on it But I'll be able to look at this wiring diagram and I know exactly where to go. I know where to get my hot side and my low and my neutral side. Okay. So I'm going to isolate the start and the run windings by detaching them one at a time. I do not unplug both of them at the same time. Okay. I'm going to do them each of these one at a time. So I'm going to check the start windings first. Okay. I'm going to unplug that, and I'm going to take and ohm that out. I'm going to turn it to my settings to the very lowest ohm setting. Actually, I like to do it where I have the tone. You don't have to, but if I don't use the tone, then I've got to go to the lowest ohm setting. Okay. Now, if I use the black connector lead and touch it to the motor connector terminal, okay, then after I do that, I'm going to take the red lead and attach it to the start winding terminal. Okay. I'm going to go and check my meter. I should read somewhere between 2 and 5 ohms of resistance. If I read that, then that tells me that the start windings are good. If you notice, the one in this diagram is 4 ohms. That tells me that the start windings are good. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the run windings. So I'm going to plug back the start winding back into the slot that I unplugged it from. Now I'm going to pull the run windings. Okay. Once I pull the run windings, I'm going to repeat this procedure with the run windings that I just did with the start windings. Okay. Now I do the same thing. If the meter shows 2 to 5 ohms of resistance, then that tells me that the winding is good. So does that mean that I have a good winding? Not necessarily. Okay. So if I've got the start and the run windings good, now I have to, if they both show 2 to 5 ohms of resistance, then the motor may be doing properly. Okay. One of the things that as the last thing that I do is I'm going to check the thermal protector. Okay. So if I don't have my motor running, I'm going to check that thermal protector. I'm going to unplug one side of the windings to that thermal protector, and I'm going to go between that thermal protector and make sure that my thermal protector is good. If it's good, if you have an old motor, they sell the thermal protector. If you have a brand new motor, you're going to have to check with your parts supplier and make sure that part is available. The one that I replaced recently, that part was not available, and I had to replace the whole motor. And at that point, I actually told the customer, this is the cost of the motor. Okay. So once again, disconnect the terminals to the connector. Whenever I do that, I'm going to check my ohm setting. Okay. The meter should read close to 0 ohms. Okay. So if something happens and I have this and I go and I check it, the price of the motor itself on the one that I was on was basically half of what the dryer was going to be. And my fee to go out and fix it was going to be, that's where it was half of the dryer. This unit was about 12 years old. It was at my aunt's house, and I told her she just needed to go buy a new dryer. It was, like I said, it was about 12 years old, and it was time to just have, because now she was going to have stuff going bad. Plus, she's one of the people that did not clean her vent line. So I just knew that the next thing to go would be the heater or one of the thermostats, and I was like, "It's not going to pay for you for me to fix this." So that's how we get to the disassembly of the motor. Okay, So let's now talk about getting the unit broken down. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have to pull the unit out. If you know me or you have been to any of my classes, there are two things that I will tell you before I do anything. Number one, I have to wear booties. Okay. I protect myself and I protect my company. Okay. Number two, I protect anything that has to do with the customer. Okay. I'll tell you right now that today I was out with a technician about a month ago. The lady, he before he did anything, I made him get the customer in there and showed her the issues that we were going to experience and what needed to happen. Okay. That's before we did anything. There were scratches on the wall. There was scratches on the floor. So we took pictures of those. We documented those. Whenever we had the service order, we actually documented it on the service order. Whenever we got done, we made the customer sign that, initial it, so that she didn't try to come back and say, hey, that your technician did this. So I'm protecting myself and my company. Number two, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to have my toolbox. Okay. Whenever I carry a tool pouch. Okay. I carry that, and I carry a mat to put my tool pouch on. I'm protecting the customer's floor. I don't want the customer to be able to say, hey, he damaged my floor. That's the most expensive thing you're going to do other than water damage. Okay. So I now put my tool pouch down so that I've done that. The next thing that I do, now that I see that I'm going to have to disassemble this, I'm going to have to pull the unit out. If I'm pulling the unit out, the number one thing is I put down floor protection. I am going to not have any problems with this customer saying, oh, you scratched my floor. Okay. So there are several things that I can do for flooring protection. There is a solid sheet, okay, it's about 3/8 of an inch thick, okay, that is plastic, okay. That way, I put it up under the dryer and I can pull the dryer out. The very best thing that you could possibly do is to be able to have an air sled and use that to pull the unit out. It makes it a whole lot easier for a technician. Those are not cheap. They're about $800, down from about $1,500. But it's well worth it if I'm going to be doing anything. That way, I do not have any issues, and the customer can't say that I've damaged the floor. The other thing is, if I see any scratches on the wall, I'm going to let the customer know. I'm going to make her sign it. Same thing with the floor. I'm going to make her aware of it and make her sign it. Okay. The worst thing that you can do is have a customer call and your manager not be able to say it wasn't you. I always take pictures, and I always make sure that the customer signs if I find any damage. Okay. So I now have done everything that I need to do. I'm going to remove the screws from the lid of the dryer. Okay. Once I do that, I'm going to pull the lid toward me. Okay. I'm on the back side of the dryer, so I'm going to pull the lid toward me. Once I do that, I'm going to place that down somewhere on a blanket so that it doesn't scratch anything. Once again, if I see scratches on the lid before I pull the lid out, pull the lid off, I'm going to make the customer sign for it. Okay. Once I have removed the lid, Okay, I'm going to remove the 3 screws to the control board. Okay. Once I remove those 3 screws, okay, there's 3 more screws that I need to remove. I'm going to remove these 3 screws. My excuse me, my control board is now out of the way. If I'm just going to remove everything, I can lay the control board on the dryer drum itself. If I need to, I can unplug that. I just have to take pictures to make sure that I actually know exactly which wire goes where. All right. Next, I'm going to use a flat-bladed screwdriver to pry up the tabs so that I can release the control panel. All right. Once I release that control panel, I'm going to, depending on the dryer itself, I'm going to disconnect the Mulinex plugs. Sometimes it's not a Mulinex plug. You have to unplug it directly from the dryer. Okay. But I'm going to be able to remove that Mulinex plug. Okay. Next, I'm going to lean that panel down, and I'm going to have to lift it up and place the panel on the blanket. Okay. Now, I open the dryer door. Once I open the dryer door, I'm going to remove those 2 screws. Okay. Now, after I do that, I'm going to remove the 4 screws holding the front panel on. There are pictures of it right there, the left and right side. Now I'm going to depress the 2 tabs that I've got and lead the panel forward and remove it. Sorry, I put that slide four back. This is how you get this off. Now I'm going to remove the switch wires from the door switch. That's usually a Mulinex plug. If not, I'm going to take a picture so that I make sure that I've got them right. Okay. After removing the door and placing it on the blanket, I'm going to remove the last harness from the door for the door light. Okay. After I do that, I'm going to remove the top bracket by removing these 3 screws on the very top. You can see them on the top bracket right there. All right. Next, I'm going to remove the bulkhead wiring harness from the bulkhead. Then I'm going to move it so that it's not in your way. Usually by now, I know that I've got to, I know that I'm disappointed. I'm going to have to disassemble everything so I can move that wiring harness and the box that I have for the control box. I can move that over to the side of the dryer. All right. Depending on what you want to do next, I'm going to unplug the sensor for the wiring harness. There's a picture of it right there. Once I do that, there's 4 screws that I have to remove the bulkhead. All right. Once I remove the bulkhead, I'm going to take the 3 screws holding the blower housing on. Once I remove the blower housing, I can now lift up on the housing itself, and I can remove it. If you look right there, that's a very good picture of the housing. Notice it fits down into a little groove, taken in the pressed out metal. That's how that sits on. So you have to be very careful because you're going to have to put this back on. Whenever I go to put this back on, I have to do the same thing. I'm going to have to hold the drum up while I set this in place. Okay. So now I'm going to have to separate the belt from the pulley and push the pulley. I'm going to have to push the pulley up to the right so that I can remove it. Okay. With the drum removed, I have access to any part of the dryer. Now there's a couple of slides a little bit later that I'm going to tell you a different way that you may want to try if you're just checking right now. there's a different way to do this. Okay, because if you look at this, for me to get into this, look at what I've just had to do. Okay, if I'm just going to be checking the stuff on the right side over here, I can actually do that by a little cheating method. Okay, so by using the feature, I'm an assist to moving wrinkles in the dryer. I wonder how that got in there. So one of the things that I can tell you is, okay, one of the easy fixes, okay, there is one screw on the back of the dryer housing. I can take and lay this dryer on its left side. I take out that one screw from the back of the dryer. Once I remove that one screw, I can undo the vent that actually goes, which is right in the center of this unit right here. That's the vent held together by one screw. Once I remove that, it opens me up, and now I can check. I can unhook one wire, and I can check the continuity on those three items that we've already talked about. Okay, so I can check the continuity on my high limit. I can check the continuity on my other thermostat, and I can check my heater. If I follow those check right out good, I know that that's not my problem. I can put my piece back together, and I haven't totally had to disassemble the whole dryer just to get through it and check it. Okay, but it does have the other two sides that I have to check. I have to check that I'm going to have to remove everything. But if all three of these check good, I'm going to have to check the other two that we've already talked about. Okay, but that's just a quick and easy little tip that I have learned over the years that actually was shown to me. Excuse me, by a technician that said, "Why are you going to all this trouble? All you have to do," and he showed it to me. And I went, "Wow, that is a cool thing." All right. So does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. We are going to go, and I'm going to talk about the easy stock app. Okay. I try to do this at the end of the commercial, at the end of everything, so that everybody can leave if they want to. I see we still only have one person, but the Easy Stock app, okay, the Encompass is the leading provider of original replacement parts and after-sale parts. Okay, the best thing that I have found in years is this Easy Stock app. Okay. It makes my life so much simpler. All right. If I had this whenever I was first starting as a technician, it would have made things so much easier for me. One of the problems that you have as a technician is knowing exactly where everything is on your truck. The truck that I used to drive had two sets of shelving behind the driver's seat, and then one set of shelving behind the passenger seat. Okay, that was usually, I had the door. I had a two-door thing, but the shelf was behind the two doors. Okay, and then behind that shelf was my tanks for Freon. But Easy Stock, it makes it so much easier. So let me give you the 1,000-foot view on Easy Stock. Okay, it's a management for my parts. I can set it up so that if I drop below a certain stock amount of my choosing, it will automatically order that part. All right. If that doesn't, if that doesn't sell you on it, I don't know what will. Because there's nothing worse than going out to the truck, looking at where you thought the part was supposed to be. It's not there. As long as I put it in my Easy Stock app, scan it in and put it in the right part, I'll never lose it. I know exactly where it is. It will tell me specifically bin number 1A, because I divided it up. I would have divided it up so I had different shelving. So I would have shelf number 1, and then it would be either at the first shelf behind my seat, or it would be the first shelf coming in the back door. That's bin number 1. Now it subdivides so that I can get 5. I can do as many as I want. Usually mine were. I had the 3-inch thing, so I would actually have about 6 of those on my top shelf, and then I would subdivide that. And then if I had that subdivided, let's say that I had a whole bunch of small parts, I could actually subdivide my shelf 1A, and then I could have 1 and subdivided that into 2 pieces or 3 pieces, depending on what the part was. And I know exactly where my parts are. Let's say that I have a part that nobody has. Let's think that if I have the Vulcan lock ring kit and nobody else has it, I put it into my Easy Stock app and somebody needs it. If I have more than one technician, I know exactly where it's at. Let's say that I don't think I'm going to need my lock ring kit. I can unload it and put it in, because whenever I was running my own service company, I had my truck, and then I had put some stuff in my garage as overflow stock, but I could put this into my garage and put, garage, and then exactly where it was. And then I knew exactly where it was. So I didn't have to, look to hunt for it. This program is all about taking care of you as a company, or your company's equipment and parts. Okay. The other thing that I really like about this program, not only if I've got just 1 or 2 pieces that I can do, let's say I have 5 technicians, you know what, we're out running, I need a part, I can actually go to my Easy Stock app. If one of those other 4 technicians has that part on that truck, it'll show me that. Not only that, it'll show me, I think it will show me exactly where the technician is, and I can call the technician and say, hey, where you at? I see you got this part. I need to get it from you. Keeps you from having a callback, or not a callback. Keeps me from making a second trip to the house. Okay. So if you have any questions about Easy Stock, go to this YouTube video and it will show you. If you can't find that YouTube video, type in Encompass Easy Stock app, and it will bring up a list of about 5 apps. The one thing I can tell you about YouTube, it used to be that if I went into YouTube and I typed Encompass Easy Stock app, that would bring only the Easy Stock app. I will tell you that now Encompass has gotten like Yahoo and everybody else. If I go and try to search, I get 4,500 different other things. So at least if I type in Encompass parts, Encompass Easy Stock app, it bring the top 4 or 5 usually are my app. But if you look at the Easy Stock app, it'll sell you right there. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on anything that we have gone through? I see that we only have 2 people in the class. So does anybody have any questions? Well, thank you, everyone. Please be safe if you're traveling. There's nothing worse than actually getting in an accident. I avoided one. How I avoided it 2 Thanksgivings ago. Without the good Lord with me, I probably would be a dead soldier. I almost hit somebody. Actually, the guy pulled around me and then jammed on his brakes whenever I anticipated it enough that I had already let off the gas and was able to slam on the brakes. I had a Jeep Wrangler at the time, and luckily got it stopped. And just everybody, please be careful out there. We want you to come back. Thank you for your participation today. I wish I had some swag to give out, but I don't have swag anymore. Reggie hasn't given me any new ones. So everybody have a great day. Thank you again, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.